our first appointments training here in Fontana, and so we're so happy to be here to see so many new faces. Hopefully you will learn a lot, not just about the process of getting an appointment, but also about the work that we do at California Women Lead. We are a nonpartisan women's leadership association, and our mission is to engage, empower, and elect. So we work very hard around the state to inspire women to consider running for office or applying for a political appointment. So we're thrilled you're here for that first step.
I've had the pleasure of being a state park commissioner. I understand the importance of the commissions. It allows people from all walks of life, geographic, regionally, to work together on issues that impact our great state.
You know, whenever we start thinking about women and the opportunities that we have, there has been a male-dominated society for many, many years. And when women get involved, women are different. We bring a different focus because, one, we've raised the children, we've nurtured our children, we've done all the multitasking. We've done so many things. I can remember when Obama came in, someone said, you know, he's trying to do too many things at one time. Well, he has thousands of people working for him. I don't know why he couldn't do, but women, we do multitasking. We do many things at one time, and it's very important that we add these things to our resume and that we bring our expertise to the state government.
Thank you all for coming out today. Really great to see all of you. As Rachel mentioned, my name is Fiona Ma. Never thought I would be standing here today. I am the oldest daughter of immigrant parents. My parents were both born in China, came to this country for better life for the family and the kids. When I went to college, I had 4 choices. I could be one of the lead professions, a lawyer, an engineer, accountant, or a doctor. And since I was good at math, my parents decided that I should be an accountant. So I went to a school specifically for CPAs, undergraduate accounting. I graduated, got my master's in taxation, got certified as a public accountant, and then I didn't hit the glass ceiling at the time, but saw the glass ceiling. I was working at one of the big 8 accounting firms. So I left and started my own practice. And that is the first time at age 28 that I even thought about politics. I had no friends or family growing up in politics, never ran for office in junior high or high school. And that was the first time that I started to understand how important politics is, the political process, having a voice, being at the table. And the way I started is I got appointed to a local commission. I got appointed to the San Francisco Assessment Appeals Board. And at that time, property values were going down, and therefore homeowners would come before us to try to get their property taxes reevaluated. And so that was the first time I understood the great feeling of helping people, of being able to listen to real stories and making government work. Since then, I started working for Senator John Burton part-time because my parents didn't want me to leave accounting, which they considered to be an honorable profession. I went back and got an MBA because my parents thought if I got an MBA, I would leave politics and go back to the business world. At 33 years old, my parents wanted me to get married, so I got married. And finally, when I was 35 years old, I said, you know, Mom and Dad, please, I'm the oldest child, dutiful daughter, please bless me. I think I want to run for office. I think that is my calling. And they said, okay, rolled their eyes. If you want to do that, we're going to move to Las Vegas. And they left. And I was finally free to run for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. I had a tough race there. There were 8 people in the race, got elected to the local board, ran for the state assembly, got elected to the state assembly for the last 6 years, turned out as Speaker Pro Tem, the first Asian woman ever to serve in that position since the founding of California. that, as we all know, even though women are 50% of the population, we are still woefully underrepresented at the CEO level. We are woefully underrepresented on corporate boards, and we are only about a third in the state legislature. And I really believe that I would not have gotten to this place today without getting appointed first. I think the commission level is so important for people to understand how government works, the Brown Act, sunshine laws, what it means to take a public vote, what it means to feel pressure from many different sides. And it makes you a stronger candidate as you run for office and when you get elected. And so California Women Lead is about engaging, empowering, and hopefully electing many of you who are sitting here today. So today is the first step. We have our great Mona Pasquil, former Lieutenant Secretary, power woman, the appointment secretary for our Governor, Jerry Brown. And it's interesting because when he was governor the first time, I think he was the youngest governor, 40 years ago, and that's when California Women Lead was founded because the governor said, I am committed to appointing more women. 40 years later, I think he is the oldest governor, and he is still committed to making sure women are appointed. Close to 50% of all of his commission slots are women. There is going to be a whole host of openings coming up in June, and we need to find more people, get more women to apply so that Mona has a nice deep pool so that she doesn't hear these excuses. We don't know anyone. There's no one applying. We don't have anyone in the pipeline. So this is what these trainings are about, is about encouraging you all to take that first step. The first step is applying, and then the next step is actually for us to support you, Mona to find you, and for all of you to serve this great state of California, which I know you love as much as I do. So thank you all for coming, and I look forward also to the great words of wisdom from our panelists after. So thank you all again.
So first of all, I'd like to thank the gentlemen in the room. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Our events are all open to both men and women, so we're thrilled that you're here. How many of you serve currently in appointed office? Raise your hand up high, be proud of it. In appointed office. Helen, you're appointed. Gwendolyn, how many of you serve as a state appointee, the same group? How many of you have actually gone to the governor's website and looked at the application? A couple of you. And did you fill it out? How many of you filled it out? You filled it out? Oh, great. When did you fill it out?
Actually, it was about
A year ago?
contacted the governor's office periodically to find out where it was. Really nothing happened.
Well, now's your chance. Who else has gone to the governor's website? Did you fill out the application?
I have, on several occasions, submitted an application and never been appointed.
Okay. Well, anyone else fill it out? Well, hopefully after today, you will have some of your questions answered. Hopefully after today, you will go home and be so excited and empowered that the first thing you do is you fire up your computer and you fill out that application. Because we really do need to get more women into the pipeline. Our job at California Women Lead, I can't go to the governor's office and say, why aren't you appointing more women, if we don't have that pool of women for him to choose from. And so this is a governor who is very committed to public service. He wants California, the boards and commissions, to be representative of the state. And so part of what we do is try to go all over the state to find those great applicants and get them into the pipeline so that they can be considered for an appointment. But I'll tell you, there is a secret weapon right now in the governor's office when it comes to getting women appointed. And her name is Secretary Mona Pasquil. She is a huge supporter of women in leadership. I don't know how many of these trainings she has done, but she goes all over the state talking about the importance of serving and really trying to make this process a partnership between you as an applicant and the governor's staff. And I will tell you, I've worked with everyone on the staff for the governor's appointments unit. every single person there wants to help you. They want to see you succeed. And so I'm thrilled that she's here today joining us, and so excited that you will get to hear straight from her what it takes to get appointed, how do you navigate the process, how do you fill out the application, and any other question that you may have as you start this journey of serving an appointed office in California.
You know, it is an honor to serve as the governor's appointment secretary. And I want to give you a little bit of background so you know a little bit about me and it makes sense. I've been in politics for probably over 25 years. And 4 years ago, I got married a second time. And I told my husband, who had just retired from 20 years in the Army as a drill sergeant, that I was going to not stay in politics and that I was going to actually be home. We were going to travel and all of that. So that's November. Governor gets elected. And one of my sister mentors said to me, Mona, have you thought about serving in this administration? And I said, no. I just got married. I've just turned 52. Waited for him for a very long time, right? And she says, well, I'd like you to think about it because, then she played the guilt card. I'm Filipino, totally works. She said, we really invested a lot in you. We have mentored you. The community is counting on you. And I'm like, man, but I still stay strong. So January, after the governor takes office, I get a call one night, 10 o'clock. I was totally faking being awake, but I picked up the phone because it was Nancy McFadden, one of the governors now, chief of staff, we call an executive secretary. So I saw it and I tried to be, hi Mona, what are you doing? I'm like, I just got married, this and that. And she said, well, have you ever thought about serving in this administration? And I said, wow, that would be an honor to even be considered. Why do I say that? Because sisters, we should never say no to anything straight away. Listen to everything that comes your way. But I'm thinking, you know what I'm thinking? Not even 2 months, right? Married, and she said, what about appointments? Now, when I spoke to May Lee that first time, I told her, the only thing that I would really consider or would really want was appointment secretary, right? So if anyone's from Hawaii, my brothers, you get the chicken skin because you're like, she just said appointments. And so I went in the next day, and they were all, getting the office together, and she introduces me again to the governor. Governor, you remember Mona? And he looked at me. We have a lot of work to do. There are appointments that to be made, staff that needs to be put together. And I'm a little bit dumbfounded, and I thought, okay. And then he walks away, and I was like, was that a job offer? Right? And then Nancy looks at me. I look at her like, what to do, sister? And she says, and mentor friend? She says, we have a lot of work to do. Right. So I said, okay, all right. Obviously, I'm standing where I'm standing, I said yes. I go home to the drill sergeant that night. I'd already said yes. and this is on film. That's awesome. Hi, Bruce. And I, just did this. Total straight face, because that's who he is. And I really want to do this, and here is why. I told him the story of, I remember in the 1970s, a table in our home, the kitchen table where everyone gathered. And my uncles and my father were coaching each other on an interview and how to interview, because for the first time, there was a governor who was appointing more women, more people of color, to management positions in the bench. And that governor was Cheryl Brown. So I told him about how important it was to me to make sure that everything that my parents and my mentors have taught me, that this is an opportunity to open the door for many people. And then I said, so I know that I told you that I would do this consulting business. And he looked at me and he said, well, when you're asked to serve, there's never any question. Thank you, right? So I'm here. And it's been a whirlwind few years,
But one of the things that I'll tell you is when I first started in the office, I did an assessment of the appointments and where people were from and you know who was represented. And I can tell you that there was great absence from the Inland Empire. You had some numbers, but there was also great absence of people from the Central Valley. So I've really made it my, a mission to work with the Assembly member, work with other leaders, Fiona and Rachel, to make sure that we reach out and share with everybody the opportunities that are out there and the process, to really demystify it. It's not a tough process. Sometimes you have to be very patient, but it is not a difficult process. Everyone has the handout. If you don't, I have more here. Here you go. If you want to be considered, do you mind if I just walk over here? I'm going to do like a, oh, okay, thank you, Assembly member. If you want to be considered, you have to apply. You have to apply online. This process can be, you can only do it, I'll tell you, you have to do it in one sitting. It took me 3 times. We're trying to work on that, but you can't save the document. So for security purposes, you actually have to get it done all at once. If you're frustrated, don't worry, stop, call me. I have my business cards here in my email. I'll put you on the phone with one of our team members who will help just get, the basic information down, and then we can go from there. We ask a lot of questions. We ask about where you've worked. We ask about, your background, where you went to school, or did you go to, law school, did you pass the bar, memberships. We ask you at the end why you want to serve. And I would encourage you to fill that out, because we do show that and share that with the governor and the rest of the team. You'll usually have about anywhere between 3 or 4 interviews. The first one is always the deputy. There are 3, Michael Martinez, Sonia Hustis, and Sarah Greenside. They will call you and say, we have a board X, there's a vacancy. Let's talk about why you'd like to serve. They will go through and identify potential conflicts. They'll also say, there may not be an opening or a vacancy on this time for you because maybe you want to be on the nursing board, and right now all of the licensee positions are filled. There are public members, or there may be another board that we can consider. I ask you to be open, because sometimes we see something in you that you don't see in yourself. For example, there was a board that we needed someone who would be a good, strong public member, because sometimes a board, if you get too many people with a similar voice, someone's voice is missing and something is not being shared or heard, right? We will go out there and say, I know that you didn't want this board, but will you think about this? Here's why. You may say, I would like to be a UC regent, and that's all. And I will say, well, you know what? Might not happen this time, but let's do some other things. Let's maybe, because a lot of these boards and commissions have very big issues ahead of them. So if you're higher ed, you're interested in higher ed, we need to know where you stand on executive pay. Where are you with a lot of different budget issues? We're going to ask you about online education. What are your thoughts? And you don't have to be the expert. You don't have to know everything. We ask you to have the passion to want to be open, to learn, and to think about other ways that we can better serve our fellow Californians. Okay? So and if you have any questions, just interrupt me, raise your hand, and we'll take care of it then. It's important too that people look at the vacancy list. That's also one part of the handouts. And look at some of the boards. You may say, there's nothing that I am interested in these boards. That's why it's a good idea to have a conversation with the deputies. What I like to do, and Rebecca, my assistant, always says, why do you do this? I will say to people, give me a call and let's spend 5 or 10 minutes on the phone. Because what I'd like to do is figure out what your passion is, what motivates you. Because I certainly don't want to do this. Put you on a board that you absolutely hate from start to finish. Why? Because sometimes people say, I will do anything. I just want to serve. It's a give and take. You've got to enjoy the issues. Some of them are very, very difficult. For example, there could be boards that always have a reporter. who's at every meeting, who will want to talk to you about different issues, and sometimes you might not feel comfortable about being interviewed or some of the hot political issues that are in the news all the time. We will talk you through that. We will say in the interview process, wow, that's awesome that you want to be a CSU trustee or a UC regent. You're moving down in the second interview. We need to talk about some of the issues, but we need to talk about some of the things that members face. We had a gentleman who was interested in CSU trustee. He said, well, what are some of the things that, what are some of the challenges that members have? Well, at the time, there was big budget issues and tuition issues and access to classes, and there were a lot of members whose homes were being protested, right? He says, oh, I didn't know about that. And I said, you want to know everything. He says, I have to talk to my wife. Called me back the next Monday and said, we have 2 young kids, that's a no-go for me. So we will talk you through those things. And you might say, you know, why all this detail? It's important before you step in that you even witness and watch, even online, some of the meetings. You'll see the exchange, you'll hear the issues. And that'll help you decide if that's really what you want to do. Some of these appointments are pleasure, and some, which means you serve at the pleasure of the governor. Some are termed, which means once you're appointed, you cannot be removed until your term is up. I'm a pleasure appointment. The governor could come in tomorrow and say, Mona, it's been a pleasure. Pleasure's over, right? So, and I would say, thank you very much for this great honor, okay? That is, so you have to think about some of those things. If you are interested in possibly working on our team, we are all pleasure appointments. The jobs are in Sacramento. There are a few that are in Los Angeles, a few in San Francisco, but the governor has really, you know, when he came into office and we had such a big budget deficit, we had to close a number of offices, and he will say, the jobs are here. Okay, so if you're interested in that, I would love to talk to you about those opportunities. A little bit of sacrifice involved, but there have been a lot of people who have actually joined the team from here. San Bernardino County has 247 applications in. We have appointed 57 people from this county. We need more, right? And so what I think that a lot of folks will say is, well, you know, I'm not, and I hear this a lot when I'm doing workshops with women. I'm not sure that I'm qualified. Ladies, you're here, and gentlemen, you're qualified, okay? And so I want you to look at this as this is the way that you can continue to give back to your community, to your state. This is something too that other young women and men, but mostly women, because this is a California Women Lead event, will see. When they see you in these leadership positions, it becomes a possibility for them, right? So think about that, and think about how we, yes ma'am. Oh no, please.
You mentioned about the more challenging appointments, say for the UC Regents or the CSU. Do the deputies ever recommend maybe the stepping stone appointments? So if you want to do that, you can take, okay.
We do, stepping stone. What we do sometimes is say, you know, maybe not this time, maybe what we'll do is let's try teacher credentialing. Let's see how you are. Now that's also a very intense commission, but it's you know, it's a good way to test. You may say, I don't want to do that yet, but could I be maybe on one of the subject matter policy advisory committees? Smaller committee. Am I supposed to do something? Okay. Oh, okay. Smaller committees. So we will help you. We will help you. If you say, I would like to do this down the road, I'm not sure that I'm ready, then we'll help you to kind of find the steps to get there. Some people will say, you know, I've been in this, and I love this board that I'm in, but Mona, why did you and your team call me and ask me to serve on another board? Sometimes when we watch you, because we do attend these meetings and we do talk to board members, we talk to the staff, they'll say, wow, she's fabulous. Here are her strengths. And we may need just that on another board. You could come back and say, thank you for thinking of me, but I don't want to leave. But we always like to spice it up for people. Okay? Yes, Ruthie. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Yes, having a microphone is obviously extremely helpful. Can you talk a little bit about the politicization? That's not even a word, but the politics of the boards and getting appointed. I know for a fact that the board that I made application to twice is highly politicized.
Which one?
CCDA. You know, it depends on.
You want to say it out
I'm
loud?
sorry, the California Commission for Disability Access, which was an entity that was created in Senate Bill 1608 in 2008, because California was required by law in 1992, along with every other government agency, to have a disabilities advisory committee or commission, and CCDA was created in 2008, and it is highly political. And I can tell you right now that I have been told several times, don't even bother because of the,
Yeah. Did somebody from our team tell you that?
no, not from your team,
Okay, because we would
No.
never say that.
from CCDA, because of the positions that I have taken in opposition to Darrell Steinberg. And you don't piss off Darrell Steinberg and expect to get appointed. So I just want to know whether or not other commissions tend to have a politicizing overlay, and how would one overcome that?
I adore Ruthie Goldcorn. Boy, does she just say it. That's awesome. So here's what I will tell you. We will never discourage anybody, but I will be very upfront. I will say, maybe not now because we have somebody that is actually in the seat that you would fill. We are always looking for people who have different opinions. Why? Because the governor will say, if you fill a 9-member board with everybody that has the same opinion, we're not serving the state. So I would say, you know, the staff really that's very inappropriate for the staff to tell you something like that. And I would say that we'll make sure that Sarah Greenside, who handles those appointments, she's on my team, she'll get in touch with you soon. Because that bothers me, because everybody can have their opinion. What the governor will ask us all the time is you got to be willing to have that spirited dialogue. Spirited dialogue is always respectful, but you've got to be able to exchange different ideas. That's how people are served, and that's how we do a good job. So Sarah will follow up with you. Never mind, when people tell you no, just keep going. They've done that to me forever. I just kept going. And you too, I've known you for 20 years. You are always like this. So get on the phone with Sarah. I know we just made an appointment, but I can't remember which slot at the time that we appointed to. But
The other point I was going to bring up is, even if you don't have a specific interest in that, whatever constituency you represent, whether it's families, whether it's kids, whether it's dogs or cats, or whatever your passion is, you can bring that. I know that I've also been looking at some of the other boards, such as some of the ag boards, because there's a lot of openings there, and some of the fair boards. And the issues of the disability community transcend those, and access, physical access, program access is missing from so many of those. So that particular perspective is what I would choose to bring forward. And I'm sure that's true of just about everybody here. You've got a bailiwick. You have something that you are passionate about that you can bring to something that, why would I want to serve on an agricultural commission? On account of because you like flowers.
or because you really support the county fair and the opportunities of partnerships and leadership development for kids in the community, right? Absolutely. So Sarah will get on the phone with you. It breaks my heart to when some people are discouraged. Makes me want to call that person, whoever they were, and tell them. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question.
I've been
Maybe
known to
from
do
the
that too.
Philosophical point of view or so. If you can share with us, what are the general expectations? What are the general expectations for all the appointees? And then how would you define it successful? After a term, how will you see any of us saying or coming back and saying, congratulations, that was a very successful work or appointment?
You have to, one, you need to participate. That's the expectation. Show up. Every now and then, I get asked, hey, can you bring the attendance over? I want to see how the team's doing. Do you speak up in meetings? Not expected to speak up straight away. You know, you want to learn kind of the business of the board, but do you have an opinion? Are you prepared? Have you read the background? Or do you look at where it says staff recommended vote and then just do that? Hopefully you don't do that, right? And during public comment, you are, when people spend a lot of time, you know, to wait to testify on an issue, or if you're a consumer board and you're talking about their cases up and none of this. Not acceptable. Why? That's right. And the responsibility is great. You're representing, especially if you're on a consumer board, you're representing the consumer, the public. So it's happened a couple of times, and every now and then, you know, I have to make a call, and I'll say, you can always tell it's going to be difficult because my voice is usually lower. It goes up a notch. Hi, this is Mona. Usually not a great sign. I'll say, right? But I'll say, are we having some trouble? Because we're hearing that there's, you know, that maybe this isn't something that you're interested in, or, you know, people have noticed. There are public meetings. They're filmed. You know, people notice these things. We know that life happens. You may not be able to make every meeting. Let us know. There's somebody who didn't go to a meeting for a year in a term appointment and didn't call anybody. And I would say, let us know. Things happen in people's lives. We're fine with that, but if we don't hear from you, you're gonna get the high-pitched Mona voice. Not fun, right? So how is it successful? Both of us feel, you know, you've given back, you've participated in some way. Your voice and your voice on a board has made something happen, right? I think so. I think that's really important. But you've got to take these seriously. I had someone say to me in an interview that she'd been an appointee for a few different administrations, and she says attendance was never a prerequisite. I'm really surprised at how many times you people are interviewing. We take this very seriously, and when we go before the governor to say we would like to recommend this person, and here's why, here's the support, here are the people who might even oppose, we want to make sure that we are setting you up for success. Question?
2 questions.
Yes.
Where are the meetings held? Are they locally? Do you have to fly up north? And then second part question, what kind of resumes are you looking at, and how much experience? So that's pretty much my question.
Okay. The meetings are, many of the boards are, there are a few that Gwendolyn's on one that's based out of here in Southern California. Most of them are staffed out of Sacramento. The boards, you'll get per diem. We can give you a fact sheet for some of the boards that you're interested in. The per diem varies. The travel is paid for you. The staff will make all of those arrangements. But one of the wonderful powers that you have as a board member is you can make the suggestion to move meetings to different parts of the state, because perhaps that would be a great idea, because, you know, why should you have people drive all the way from Fontana and, you know, lose a day's work or have 2 days because you have to spend the night, drive up, and then go to the hearing? Why don't we make ourselves available? We can't tell you that, but as board members, you can suggest to the staff that. You have that power. We're looking at all kinds of resumes. We have appointed people from that were 17 years old to 90. So I think what it is we're looking for people who have, who want to participate and want to do something. I think that it's very important too that you know, just send it in and let's have a conversation. If we need more information, we'll ask. The other part of it is the letters of support. I say this, please, 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 when you're doing these letters of support, you don't have to give us 100 form letters, as has been done before. You want to do a few. There might be 2 people who can talk about you and in a letter and talk to the team. There could be 5. Don't worry about the number. Think about who are the few who can really say, I know this person would be great. Because we do our own vetting. We will call others and ask, do they know you? What do you say? We will call your assembly member. What do you think in this position? We will do all of those things. And if we need more, we will ask. We'll ask for it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm new to the state, but I certainly am very interested, and I have done other things from where I moved in Maryland. So how important is it then to have connections, the local political connections and so forth, in the vetting process? Is this a big barrier
No,
for
it's not a
someone
big
like
barrier.
myself?
It's not a big barrier. It helps if they, and when I say that they know you, it can't be that I met them once and we said hello and I got a letter. It's got to be, and so it's okay if you don't. If we ask and they say, well, you know what, I've seen her at a few things, but we'll call the people in Maryland, okay? Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
There are multiple vacancies that I'm interested in. Would you suggest applying for more than one or just to apply for one at a time?
Oh, I would put all of them on the list. Because what happens is that sometimes there may not be a vacancy that you would be, you would qualify for. Okay? Any other questions?
Question from me is timing. So you submit your application, and I see that sometimes the process is one that you may not come. It may not work for you that time, and maybe the next time it will. Typically, what are you finding for people who are interested? What is your batting average?
It depends on the board, but I would say sometimes if we actually recruit you, it could be less than a month. Sometimes if we're having the other issues could come up where we don't really have a vacancy yet because we're waiting for someone's term to end, we could say it could be a year. Would you like to wait, or do you want to think about another board? There have been times where it's taken a little bit longer. The longest that I've seen is 2 years. Why? Because we will vet, meaning we will call, we will check your references, and there won't be a clear path. So there are times when you have people who, and I say this all the time, where you have a long line of people who appreciate the work that you've done and think you're great, right? And then you have a very short line of people who are just, not happy because maybe you opposed each other on a neighborhood deal, right? And so we look at everything. We will ask, can you give this a name and number of someone who's worked on the opposite side of an issue, so that we can ask them, you may never agree, but do you feel you get a fair hearing? Do you feel that she listens? So sometimes it can be, if it's not clear, we take a little bit of extra time. But I think we're doing pretty good now. It's not that long. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this is the attachment is a list of current vacancies through April 2nd. I would imagine, is there like a rotation of available vacancies that come through? Like, say, for instance, I look through here and I want to serve, but there's not, initially I see that's not a perfect fit for me. So would I go on the website and look at the other commissions and things like that, and then as vacancies come up, submit my application for those?
I would submit your application first, because what happens is even before a vacancy will come up on a certain board, the deputies and I talk every day, and we actually will say things like, I don't have a vacancy yet, but I'm going to have one in a few months here. She might be interested in this. Okay, so I think that the sooner that you can actually get your application in, set some time together to talk with myself or one of the deputies, it will put your name in the universe so that we know a little bit about you, and as we're going through vacancies, because sometimes people resign, in term, and we would like to have that, way we know exactly who we want. So I would say apply. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Thank you, Mona. Can you clarify exactly what an appointee or commissioner does? I'm not quite sure. Are they impacting policy, or they're representing their constituents? I'm not really sure what their job description is. Could you clarify that?
Of course. So there are a lot of different boards. There are about 3,000 appointments that the governor can make. The local boards, and I think Ruthie talked about this earlier, are the ag boards. Those are the local fair boards. These boards, I say, are different than any other board. They are the roll up your shirt sleeves and work with the community to make sure that not only does the county fair happen, but that events will happen throughout the year on site to keep the fair viable. That's direct and monthly interaction with the team. You're looking at finances, you're looking at business partnerships and contracts, monthly meetings and subcommittees. There are consumer boards. The consumer boards are ones that they meet. It depends. Sometimes they meet every month, sometimes they meet every other month, but they all have committees and they meet regularly. These are, for example, the Board of Registered Nursing. The Board of Registered, are there any nurses in the room? Okay, so there, you know that they have, I would say about now, every 4 months, we have a good 7,000 applicants for their license. Then there are also, so you're looking at testing, you're looking at that, there are also complaints about nurses and cases. Board members will get, on this particular board, every 2 weeks, a CD of about 140 cases that you have to read and decide, think about, read the background and decide how will you vote when it comes to the discipline, okay? There are others, the State Board of Education, right, where you're talking about education policy, as well as under that, teacher credentialing and subject matter advisory committees that meet maybe 4 times a year. There are a lot of different ones where you will set policy, but some are also include discipline. And some also, and others are just like, working for the community. There's something, the Volunteer Commission, that Helen can talk about, where you are looking at, they work on AmeriCorps, and you control all the AmeriCorps funding throughout the state, and different ways that business can partner with the state. So there are a lot of different types of impacts that you can have, and I would say there are fact sheets that we have that we'd be happy to send to you once you kind of figure out the area that you're interested in, and it'll give, and the deputy can also give you some good information. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. In the vetting process, as far as references are concerned, do those references need to be someone in the political arena, or would someone from the business or nonprofit arena be also someone that could be used as a reference?
Someone who knows you. Someone who knows you. If you're involved in the nonprofit world, and someone who knows your work ethic and your desire to, has seen your passion to want to serve. I think it's important, if you know your local electeds, if you know your legislators, it's always nice to have that. But I would say you want it to be someone who knows you. Okay, sometimes people will say, well, I only have one person, and that's fine, because like I said, we go one off and we'll make some calls. It's not like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I swear it's the 1 degree of Jerry Brown. He knows everybody, right? He'll say, call so-and-so, I bet you they know her. Yes, ma'am.
I'm asking, I notice you have a vacancy on the Department of Aging.
Yes.
And I have been interested in that for many years, because San Bernardino County is never represented by anybody on the Department of Aging. Yes, Cheryl? So I hesitate to apply because I don't have the credentials that those people have. It scares me.
What did I say earlier, young lady?
Yeah,
you're here, you're qualified.
Yeah.
You're from the Inland Empire, you're from San Bernardino, and you want to represent, you're qualified, you're here. You want to give the time, you're qualified, you're here. Here's what I'll tell you, there are vacancies. This one, and Sarah Greenside, let me get your information. And also, please take my card. There are a few of these boards where it'll say there are vacancies because by statute they have so many slots. But because of budget, because they pay for you to come to the meetings and stuff, they will say, Mona, we can only actually cover this year about 15 rather than 17 or 18. So let's talk, because it's a great commission, and we would certainly want to make sure that we have someone from the area represented. Please apply. If you don't want to apply, just at least talk to Sarah. Okay? Yes?
Mona, thank you for coming down here to the Inland Empire. 2 questions real quick. I think you alluded to it, but if you can just go a little more into it. How much does when making appointments, does diversity come into, and when I say diversity, like kind of like in a college entrance kind of manner, like race, ethnicity, if you might be a member of a certain faith, like if there's someone who from, I don't know, from like the Sikh community who's not represented at all, do those things play into appointments, or is it more, okay, this is the person's background, they have maybe have a professional connection to something where they can add an expert opinion on something, and then on people who may be very controversial on a certain issue, diversity of thought. Does that keep people from appointments? But I always think of Ward Connerly. I mean, he was always kind of leading in many ways, or not leading in certain ways, if you want to take him as an example. So where does that play into both of those?
I tell you, we look at everyone. Here's what I will tell you: we always want the most qualified for the board, right? But that doesn't always mean, you know, that you have to have a certain degree. That doesn't mean that you have to be a Filipino who was born in 1962 with, you know, 3 nose rings. Yeah, that doesn't mean all those things. What we look for is, you know, why you want to be on this board, and then the mix in what you bring to a particular board. I always look at, and everybody always looks at, do we have a deep enough applicant pool? Do the people of the great state of California, this great ethnic mosaic, do all the communities know that this is an opportunity for them? Do all the people from everywhere from Tehama, you know, down to the border here, or Needles, know that they can too participate? So we look at all of it. We also, if you've paid attention to the governor, he appreciates thoughtfulness and thinking and, you know, spirited dialogue, right? Which means that you're not all going to agree, but you should be able to sit around the table, because if you bring different perspectives, something really great can come out of a board, you know, if we listen. So we look at everything. We look at everybody. But what I have found is that there are places and communities in the state that don't even know that they can apply. And that's why, you know, the team and I go up and down the state to say, please, think about it.
Do you ever how to find a mentor, or how to go about finding a mentor?
Well, I would say that, you know, I tell people all the time, if you find someone that you've read about or have met or have seen, and you'd like them to be your mentor, just call them and ask them. I've had a lot of emails from especially young girls who've said, you know, I'm the first in my family to go to college, and I'd like to talk to you because I think some of our family values are the same, or because my grandparents were farm workers and their parents are farm workers. So whatever, you know, where you feel a connection, I think that you should ask. My mother and my grandmother were my father, but my mother and my grandmother really shaped the need for mentorship for me. When I started in the Capitol, I was going to be a teacher. I wasn't going to be involved in, you know, in public service. I was going to, in government, I was going to teach Dante and Chaucer. So that just tells you how exciting I am, right? I know. And my mother told me, I want you to call this woman, Maylee Tom. At the time, she was the CAO of the Assembly under Speaker Willie Brown, the first Asian Pacific Islander woman in this position, and woman too, right? So I made an appointment at her office, and I'm sure she probably thought I was an idiot. And I said, hello, Ms. Tom, my mother said that I have to have you as my mentor. That's been 30 years ago, and I talk to her almost every day still, right? She's the one, I think that everybody has to have somebody like that. I can go for months maybe and not talk to her a few years when I was traveling a lot, but it's important, because when you're on some of these boards, the interview process is stressful enough, but when you get on some of these boards and you realize that there are a lot of different politics on these boards, you want to have that safe place and that person that you can have a conversation with. Talk it out, you know, or if you're still going through the interview process and you're feeling like it hasn't been as great as you'd like it to be, it's great to have a mentor who you can talk through and, you know, practice with and get advice from. And I think that I think it's important. We should all have mentors, no matter our age. You've had your hand up, I know, for a lot. First of all, what board did you apply for? Because you said you applied, and who did you talk to?
I applied for probably, I don't know, 10 or 15.
Okay.
And I was going to say I was at a fabulous California Women Lead conference in San Diego when I first heard about the board appointments. And so I went back and I got online and I did all the things that I thought I was supposed to do. So my question really is, do you have a process whereby you get back to applicants to say, basically, maybe there's something that they're missing in their application or someplace that could be strengthened so that, and I did periodically call the office to find out where I was or what's going on, and I did not, unfortunately, get a call back. So that has been my experience, the reason why I'm here again today. But my second question is that in my professional world, I'm a public affairs manager for a large corporation in the state of California, and I'm thinking maybe there could be a conflict with regard to who I work for.
Yes.
You know, how to stand up with regard to that company and working for a board, and maybe that was the conflict. So it left me with questions as to what happened with my application.
So let me do the Nancy Drew work. If you Rachel just gave you my card, so if you'll call me, I would say either tomorrow afternoon, because I'm doing a workshop in the morning, or next week. I want to find out, you know, who those boards are and if there were potential conflicts. Sometimes, and I apologize that no one got back to you, because we really try to make it our business to get back to everybody. Okay?
Yes, I just had a quick question. Is it possible to serve on 2 or more boards or commissions? I know currently I serve on the, for a city library trustee board, so I'm just curious, is that possible, or are there restrictions to that?
Yes, you can. It's difficult for people to serve on 2 state boards. We try to encourage that. We've done it a few times. It's hard on people because these meetings are during the day. And sometimes you have to, you leave work for 2 days. But we encourage people to, if they're on their local board, we think it's fine to serve on a state one. We just like to make sure that you have the time and that you can get all the work done.
One more question. We have time for one more. Oh, someone who maybe hasn't asked a question yet? Anyone? This is your chance. No? Okay, do one more. Did you have one more? Quick question.
Thank you. The California Commission for Women.
The Commission on the Status of Women and Girls.
What is the status of that? And I always found the best mentors were, even if you're not on your county commission for women, go to the meetings and meet wonderful people and join civic organizations. I know a Lions Club just inducted their first man. It's all women. So you can, there are mentors to be found, but the Commission for Women and Families and Children, what is the status?
Well, it is still in existence. I think if anyone doesn't know the background, there was when we first started, there were a number of boards because of the budget that we actually had to. We suggested to eliminate. That was one of them. Wasn't because the governor and the team don't appreciate the need for having to track issues that are important to women, but we thought that because of the budget, that it could be an opportunity, because we have more women in leadership positions on our cabinet, in our office. We thought that it would be a great marriage to work with women's organizations who are doing that, right? And so have some sort of a partnership. We do have vacancies, and we are interviewing people. We haven't made, the legislature reversed the governor's proposal to eliminate, so it's still in existence, and we are interviewing people. Last year, I think there was a bill that was signed that would call for one of the appointees to be from a woman, either vet or having served in the military. I want to thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope that you apply. And if it's not you, then maybe it's somebody else. And when you ask that person and you tell that person to apply, that you will help them through this process. And if you have any questions, please give me a call or shoot me an email. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask my friend Helen and Gwendolyn to come up. We're going to do a panel. The three of us are all gubernatorial appointees, and so we thought we'd take a few minutes so you can hear our personal stories. We've all gone through this process interviewed through the different stages that you interview. And all of us are at different stages in terms of how long that we have served. So I'm going to ask Fiona Ma to come back up and moderate the panel.
Okay. So we have about 30 minutes left. We don't have to take the whole time, but here are three fabulous women who can talk about their experiences. Not only I'd like them to talk a little bit about their backgrounds, and then also their experiences both at the local level and maybe some of the differences at the state level. I'm just going to do a brief introduction. Gwendolyn Cross is the founder and CEO of California Women for Women, and also the owner of Cross Consulting Group. She has served 4 terms on the Riverside County Democratic Central Committee. She's a delegate to the California Democratic Party. She served on the Senior Citizens Advisory Board for the city of Moreno Valley, and she is also a gubernatorial appointee to the Bureau of Security Investigative Services Private Security Disciplinary Review Committee. I hope you guys have an easy acronym. And this year, she is a candidate for the 4th District City Council of Moreno Valley. Thank you, Gwendolyn. Helen Torres is Executive Director for HOPE, which stands for Hispanas Organized for Political Equality. Is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. Prior to being with HOPE, she was with the United Way of Greater Los Angeles as a fundraiser and community relations officer. She has an extensive background in public relations. She serves on the City of Los Angeles Commission on the Status. She served on the City of Los Angeles's Commission on the Status of Women, and is now an appointee by the governor on the California Service Corps. And then Rachel, our Executive Director of California Women Lead since 2002. Prior to her service here, she served 15 years in state and local politics, interning on Capitol Hill for a U.S. Senator. She was a staff member to a couple of state assembly members. She is also an appointee to the Bureau of Security Investigative Services, Private Security Disability Review, and also ran for city council in her Board of Supervisors at the county level in her town. So welcome, ladies, and however, let's start with Gwendolyn. Tell us about your background, and then maybe the appointments process and what you think about serving, and any tidbits for these women.
Is it on? Okay. Well, Fiona just gave you my background. I'm Gwendolyn Cross. I'm the founder of California Women for Women. I have been in the political arena for the last probably 30 years. I enjoy what I do. As she said, I'm in the process right now of running for city council in the city of Moreno Valley. That election will come up this November. I am a commissioner. I was appointed last May. In fact, this is my 1-year anniversary being a commissioner, and I'm on the Bureau of Investigative Services. I can't go into detail to explain to you exactly what that is, but I enjoy sitting on that commission. I have learned a great deal sitting there. We meet once a month, sometimes we meet twice a month. That was not the commission that I originally applied for. I think there was 5 other ones that I had applied for, and when they called me from Mona's office and offered that one to me, I said, okay, let me think about it. I'll call you back in a couple of days. So I did. I thought about it. I called back, and I said, I think I want to sit on that, because I've always been the person to try something new and something different. It took me out of my normal realm of what I'm accustomed to. And after I got on the commission, it was interesting. I enjoy it. I really, really do. I have not missed not one meeting since I got appointed. And I have to tell you this also, after I was appointed, I started getting all of these congratulations, phone calls, these letters in the mail from everybody. I mean, I just got all these letters, and they were addressed to the Honorable Gwendolyn Cross. And I said, are they talking about me? And it was nice. It was really nice. I mean, you get a lot of respect. People respect you because you're sitting on a commission. You're doing something for your community and also the state of California. And it's an honor. So I would challenge every woman in this room, if you're considering applying to apply, it'll be something that you will really enjoy. Trust me.
It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and I want to give a big thank you to Fiona. Fiona and I just happened to run into each other in Washington, D.C., and we were having dinner, and I'm like, you know, we really need to do something in Fontana or in the Inland Empire, because I actually live around here. And she's like, okay, let's do it. And during that dinner, she had text Rachel that I think that was a Thursday. By Monday, everything was set. So if you want something done, and if you really feel passionate about it, speak with Fiona. She will make it happen quickly. So thank you so much for making this happen. As already mentioned, my name is Helen Torres. I'm the Executive Director of HOPE, Hispanas Organized for Political Equality. We are a leadership and advocacy organization for Latinas across the state. I have come to not only have a passion to ensure that all voices are heard through the appointment process, not only because of HOPE, but because my own experience on serving both on a city, then a county, and now at a state level as a commissioner myself. I have the great pleasure, because you are serving at the pleasure, of serving at, on the state commission that I serve right now is called California Volunteers. We allocate the federal dollars that comes to the state of California through AmeriCorps grants. So it's a very important commission to ensure that there is a bipartisan voice to ensure that those dollars go out to our communities, to our nonprofits, and that our young people that are going through AmeriCorps are serving the community. So there's a lot of responsibility of oversight. We have a great team, but you always have to do your homework. So a couple of things of advice for anyone considering this. First of all, I have been on this commission close to 10 years. So I started when I was 35 years old. I've been there for a long time. That's something to be discussed, right? I'm looking at Mona, like maybe it's time, you know. But in that time, not only have I learned a lot about the state and was able to come to the commission pretty new to the process, but right away found a place to really ensure that the AmeriCorps dollars were going to communities of need, that there was diversity in that application process. And not only do we do AmeriCorps, but we also do Disaster Corps, and we do informational and get monies out around volunteerism around the disaster area. And at that time, there wasn't that much effort around bilingual education of volunteers. That has changed drastically, not just because of my voice, but because of the voices of the commissioners of the time. And because we still have great executive directors that listen to that. So you have a great opportunity to make a mark for your community through commissions. I will also say that you do serve at the pleasure, and you have to be, kind of have tough skin, because sometimes people are going to question why things have been done the way. So if you've done your homework, you're going to be able to answer those questions. You also have to be able to, ensure that you're leaving room for others to serve and that you're mentoring others. I'm very glad to say that I have been very helpful in not only helping other Latinas come onto the commission, but other women throughout the appointments process. And that's what we do a lot at HOPE. We not only work with the governor's office directly, but we also work with Senator Steinberg's office and, of course, the speakers, because they also have appointment powers. So make sure that you not only look at the governor's website, but see how you can look at what the speaker's doing, as well as the president pro tem. So those are good options as well. The other thing I would say is make sure you have your financial house in order. I am very fortunate, I guess, because, you know, my financial house is really my job and literally my home. So there's these forms called the 700 or 770. I always get the, so you, regardless of what level of commission, and you may think like, oh gosh, I'm just doing this nice little thing over here on the side. You've got to make sure that you're filling out those forms, that you're never late, that you're, you know, that you're just being very conscientious about how you're representing not only yourself, your community, but the governor or the speaker or the senator who appoints you. And the last thing I would have to say is that this, not only is it a great opportunity to serve your state, to be a voice for what you believe in, but it's also a responsibility. So if you're checking yourself out the door saying, you know, I don't feel like I'm qualified, this isn't perhaps not the right time for me, I would question, when is the right time? We're all extremely busy. Make the time to at least fill out the application. Get your name into the game. This is our responsibility as citizens and residents of this great state to make sure that it is a great state. And yes, it is frustrating. Sometimes your phone calls will not get returned. But people are busy, and as you are sometimes not as if you're not willing to go through the process, then you don't really have anybody else to complain to if things aren't what you want to happen here in this state. So I always encourage everyone to step up. Do not be fearful about the process. Do not question yourself and your qualifications. Just make it happen.
Thank you. So my story starts about 10 years ago. I've been doing appointments trainings for a very long time. And I was speaking to a group of women in San Jose at the Marriott Hotel in downtown, I still remember, and a woman raised her hand and said, "What are you appointed to?" And I said, "I'm not." And she said, "How can you go out and tell other women they should consider applying if you've never done it?" And I said, "You're right." So my appointment journey started, I was appointed locally. I went back, I live in El Dorado County, which is kind of South Lake Tahoe area, right above Sacramento County. And I met with my local supervisor, and I said, "I really want to serve." And so I was appointed to the that's what I'm on now. I was appointed to the El Dorado County Economic Development Advisory Commission. I really knew nothing about economic development, but what I did is I interviewed. There were 21 of us who interviewed. 7 of us were appointed. And I played up my skills, which were grassroots organizing. It was my work in community outreach when I worked in the state legislature. It was running a bipartisan women's organization and understanding how to get people to work together. So I was appointed. And then guess what happened at the first meeting? I became chair. So I was chair of this committee, and I absolutely loved doing it because I got to know my community. I got to know folks in my county. It was a county-wide appointment. I represented my supervisorial district. So I got to know a very agricultural district or county I live in, but I live in kind of the more developed portion of the county. And so a lot of different voices that I was able to learn. Because of that experience, I did what happens to a lot of women and men, but mostly women, is I got so fed up with the elected officials in my county that I thought I could do a better job than that. So I ran for office, not really knowing what I was doing. I'm very good at getting other people elected, but I ran. And while I wasn't successful, it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I absolutely loved running for office. And when that campaign ended, I thought, well, let's give the state appointments process a try. So I applied, went on the website, and this was actually through the previous administration, filled out the application. It does take a while. It took me about an hour and a half to fill it out, but I did. And I got a call from the governor's office. And I know Mona's a dear friend, but I always laugh when the governor's office calls you because they'll say, the governor is so thrilled to appoint you to, and then they said, the Private Security Disciplinary Review Committee. And I said, great, could you hold on 1 second? And guess what I did? I Googled it, because I had absolutely no idea what this was, right? So I'm thinking, okay, private security, what part of my resume did you get private security from? But all right. So what do? You know, and it's very similar to what Mona said. When you're asked to serve, what do? You serve. So I said, okay, I'd be happy to do it. So the next thing I knew, I'm sitting in a meeting with an attorney for 3 hours, going through every code section that pertains to private security guards. As this was going on, I'm making a list of how do I get out of this? You know, I just had my second child. Do I pull the baby card? Do I pull the, I mean, I still have the list, but I was so embarrassed because how do you call the governor's office and say, I'm sorry, I just don't know. So I thought I'll give it 6 months. That was over 5 years ago. And in fact, I was reappointed by our current governor almost a year ago, I think around the same time. And I'll tell you a secret. I absolutely love being on this commission. And I'll tell you why. And I served at the beginning with 2 gentlemen. There were only 3 of us at the beginning. Both of them are former police officers. And so they're very good at, you know, I'd never read an arrest record in my life. I didn't know, you know, some of the things I know now about drugs and alcohol and, you know, to the point now where my husband and I watch Law and Order and I understand stuff. He's like, how do you know this? I'm like, that's because of the commission I'm on. But I'll tell you, they, for years, said to me, you are the most important person on this commission. And I say, how do you figure that? Because my first couple of meetings, I just sat there. I didn't feel like I was qualified to ask questions. And they said to me, because I represent the public. I represent every one of you on this commission. And I want you to do something for me. As you go about your day tonight or tomorrow, start counting how many private security guards you come in contact with. Because it's a lot more than you think. And there's a commission, and Gwendolyn does it here in Southern California, and I do it in Northern California. And for me, when I see these folks coming before us, and we're deciding whether or not they should have a license to be a security guard in the state of California, in my mind, I have a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old. To them, a private security guard is a police officer. They don't know the difference. Do I want my children going up to this person in a mall because they get lost? You know, do I want them, I want to make sure these are people of integrity. So when I started thinking about it that way, you do make a difference. Even some of these boards that you might at first think, well, I don't know, is this really important? Is this a power board? You know, I'm not on the UC Board of Regents or the Coastal Commission, but there are so many boards and commissions in the state that keep this government and this state moving along, and there are thousands of volunteers who are giving of their time and their expertise to make it happen. So what I've learned is that while I thought I was doing this because, well, I kind of have to, it's like a job requirement for me, I'm doing it because I do believe you have to practice what you preach. But what I found is I've gotten more out of serving on this commission for myself. And I think as women, we always are doing stuff for other people, right? We're always taking care of kids, parents, we're always involved in the community, we're doing soccer, we're fundraising for the PTA, we're volunteering our churches, we're always doing for other people. What I found is serving on this board is about me. Because for, 2 days or 1 day that we meet, it's all about me. I tell them, you can't get a hold of me. I tell my office, you can't get a hold of me. It is about giving back, but you actually gain so much. And so I thoroughly enjoy the people I've met that I serve with. We have 2 new gentlemen on our commission, so we're a full board now. I really enjoy the conversations that we have. I think Helen was right on having a thick skin, because there are times where we'll have very heated conversations about should this person have a license or should they not. You have to be able to vote, make the decision, and then move on. Because if you dwell on it, then it can kind of eat you up. And that's a leadership trait, I think, as women that helps you down the road, regardless of what role you're playing. And I've really enjoyed doing that. I've enjoyed a lot of the training. You do go through a lot of training. You do go through ethics training. You have to do ethics training every 2 years. The Department of Consumer Affairs does a training for all of their appointees, and I think that's every 2 years. I have to do sexual harassment training. You do too. I don't know if you had to do. So depending on the different boards, there's different trainings that you have to do, but you learn something. And it's actually, you find that it's very interesting. But the other thing that happens is once you start going down this road of being appointed, you suddenly become a leader within your community. And so just 2 weeks ago, I got another appointment at my county. So now I'm on the County Charter Review Commission. So now I get to review the charter of El Dorado County, which I will guarantee we have a male-dominated board of supervisors. They're going to regret it because I really don't care what people think, so I'm going to do what I think is right. And so it's kind of fun. And that's the other issue. What I find is that serving at the state, I really enjoy serving at the state level. I think it's great. But locally, I think can be a lot more fun because you can get in a lot more trouble. You can raise, you can rebel rouse, you can draw things out. You can really have an impact on what's happening at your local community. It's kind of like, both of you in the assembly, you vote on things, but you may not see the full impact for a while. Whereas when you serve in local government, you can see that impact pretty quickly. And the same is true when you serve on a statewide board. You may not see your work done right away, whereas in your local boards, you can really see something happening. And so I thoroughly enjoy it. And I will tell you that out of all of these trainings that we've done around the state, I just have the privilege of getting these emails, these phone calls, these cards from women who say, I never knew I could do this. I never knew. And now they're serving on a border commission. And I had one woman who got appointed to the optometry board. My ear was going to fall off because she was screaming. She was so excited to be serving because it really is an incredible experience. And I've yet to meet anyone who has said, why did you ever tell me to do this? This is the worst. It opens so many doors personally, professionally, and politically. We just had an appointee who got appointed and she just got her dream job. She got called by a recruiter because she was a gubernatorial appointee, because they said, well, if you can pass muster with the governor of the state of California, then there's someone who we want you to be on our team. And so it can lead to so many different avenues. And so I thoroughly recommend you giving it a shot.
Thank you, ladies. And another avenue for appointments is also through the Speaker of the State Assembly or the Senate President. And one of the things I recommend is if you know your local assembly member, perhaps you can ask her to support you. But as I was listening to these women, I said, Cheryl, have you ever served on a local commission or a commission? She goes, yes. And I said, okay, you're next. So please tell them about your experience and how it's, gotten to, how you got you where you are today.
And that's why I am where I am today, is because of all the work that went into it. I was educated at Cal State San Bernardino, and I was educated as a planner in geography with a planning track. Well, whenever I came out of school, there were no jobs. And I sat back and waited until there was one woman on the board of supervisors. I can't remember her name. Her name is Nancy. I can't remember her last name. Nancy Smith, thank you. Nancy Smith. I talked to her and I said, there's no jobs over there. And she said, really? Let's see what we can do. And Nancy Smith, looking at that whole planning department and knowing there was no one of color, very few women, started being my advocate. Well, I went to work there, and I worked there until I had a child. A child was coming, and it was very difficult for me to go home and nurse her at lunchtime and go home after work and still do the things I had to do. So I gave that job up. Well, but I was a planner, and I had all this experience. My neighbor called the mayor and said, I want Cheryl Brown to serve on the Planning Commission for the city of San Bernardino. And the mayor said, well, if you're supporting me and that's what you want me to do, I'll do that. And I was appointed by Evelyn Wilcox as the mayor's representative for the entire city. I served on that the entire time that she was mayor, and when she was finished, my term was up. Well, then some people in the community said, well, now you have all this experience. You need to go and work and be on the county, on the county planning commission. I said, you think I could do that? And I, like many of you, didn't know that I could do that, but I accepted it, went, and for 12 more years, I was on the San Bernardino County Planning Commission. During that time, I was able to do so many things. Fontana never looked like this before. There was much of the work that we did to work in the county portions of Fontana to build the housing, to put the roads in place. I mean, the roads here would not match with what the county roads would be. And I said it doesn't make sense if you know we're going to annex it, that we don't have standards. We were able to put those standards in. We were able to build the housing out here before it was even annexed into the city of Fontana. So this was a very, very good feeling. I worked with developers, I worked with the people, and we were able to bring things together so that it worked for everyone. And that's one of the things that I felt good about. Well, whenever my 12 years was up, and Jerry, oh Lord, what's Jerry's last name? No, not Jerry Brown. Eves, thank you, Jerry Eves. I was Jerry's appointee. When Jerry Eves was up, when his time was up, my time was up. And I went back home. But I still have all this experience. And different people were asking me to come and do this for them or do work for them and so forth. Gloria Negrete McLeod needed someone with my experience to do what she needed to have done when she became senator. So I went to work for her. As a caregiver, my mother was very ill and I had to take care of her. So I had to give that position up. Another thing that women probably do that many men don't do is that we have to serve in that role. I became, while I was planning commissioner for the county, I became the president of the California County Planning Commissioners Association. All of that background built up to where I'm at now. Whenever I got ready to run for office, I ran for office with that kind of background, and very few people, didn't realize it, but very few people have that kind of background and that kind of experience. So as I was running for office, taking all that experience, serving on the commission, I was able to be a force, I guess you could say. And that's one of the ways that I got in this office. And I was able to run for office, and I suggest, start at your local level. Do like Lorena and Barbara and some of the other ones that are in here. Run for school board. Run for city council. Run for and so you can get the experience. I did get the experience. So whenever someone's talking to me about planning issues, I know what they're talking about. So that's probably my story.
Thank you to all the council members, the Assemblywoman, for welcoming us here today. And before we end, I just want to share one story. As you know, I was termed out in November 2012. I didn't know what I was going to do. Should I get a job? Should I get an appointment? Should I consult? And so I called Mona and I said, Mona, what should I do? Should I get appointed? Maybe I should head an agency or something. And she said, Fiona, I can't talk to you until you apply. So she made me apply too. So my application is also with the governor's office. So hopefully I get elected back into office. But I was telling you, Mona, that, before you talked to me, because I was asking your advice what I should do, you said, you need to apply, girlfriend. And I did. So that's the message today, to get into the system. I hope that you will be inspired and engaged and empowered to apply today, and hopefully all of you will run for office and be up here and be sharing your story. So thank you all for coming tonight. We look forward to working with you. All of our upcoming future events are on our website, www.cawomenlead.org. We have revamped it now, so all of the different events are clickable, and you can like it and share it on Facebook. So I want to thank Rachel for updating our website and make it much easier for all of us to attend future meetings. So thank you all for coming. Rachel?
Yeah, thank you for being here. Just so you know, we will be back down in the Inland Empire in October, I believe. We host Women's Empowerment Days around the state. We've done it for 4 years in Sacramento. We do one in Los Angeles, Redding, and this year we're adding the Inland Empire in Oakland. So be sure to be on our mailing list so that you can get information. That's a whole day of great training in terms of skills trainings. We always bring in a great keynote speaker, and we always have an empowered women's panel in the beginning. So it's a wonderful opportunity for you to really empower your leadership networks and to learn some new skills. So again, thank you for coming. If you have any questions, feel free to call or email us. We are here to help you through the process. Thank you to Gwendolyn and to Helen and to the Assemblywoman and her staff. I know Ashley is still here, for all of their help in making this happen. And thank you again for being here.